Nurses and doctors should not be treated as punch bags. Those are the words of one healthcare union tonight, as South Today can reveal the number of reported attacks on NHS staff in the South has risen steeply. We asked all of our hospitals how many times staff have been physically and verbally attacked. Of the 2/3 that replied, there were close to 3,000 incidents in the past year. That's up by more than a third on 5 years ago. The issue came to the surface this spring when security staff at Southampton General Hospital went on strike over concerns for their safety. In a moment, we'll put these findings to the government minister in charge of safety in our hospitals. But first, our reporter Matt TREACY has had behind-the-scenes access to speak to staff at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital.
It can be really frightening. It can be a bit terrifying at times.
I kind of come out of those situations, you're physically shaking. It's horrible.
Yeah, there's not many jobs you go to and you get abuse every day, but we accept it in our job.
So the patient came through the doors after ripping them off the hinges, and they charged at me and threw a punch. But it's really scary. You know, it puts a fear into you. You think that might be the end. I've worked in this emergency department for about 2 years, and occurrences of violence and aggression really are on the up, and to a point where we probably get 3 or 4 violent episodes a week at the moment.
Our research would suggest this is below average in the South, but it's not just A&E where staff are at risk.
It was Christmas time and I had somebody who got a lighter in an aerosol can and sprayed that around, so that got quite hairy.
I've had patients be aggressive to staff, like throwing urine bottles on them. It's really unacceptable in any other job other than ours. And sadly, nurses, I feel, do on our ward think that it's just part of the job.
Even some patients have been shocked at the treatment of staff.
I've witnessed people shouting and raising their voices and being aggressive to nurses since I've been here. So, yeah, it's not very good. I haven't seen any staff lose their temper. It's amazing how they cope with it, really, to be honest with you.
While patients who are affected by drugs and alcohol remain an issue, some staff say part of the reason attacks are on the up is because they're seeing more people with mental health problems.
A lot of the violence and aggression or the challenging behaviours you deal with come from the elderly population, patients who are confused, they have delirium or dementia, and they're being brought to, mental health patients being brought to probably a place which is inappropriate for their care. We're a place of safety for them, but there is no one that works in this department on our staff that has a mental health qualification.
The government knows this is an issue. The Department for Health last year launched a new strategy to try to tackle the problem. It also doubled the maximum jail term for people who attack emergency workers to 12 months. But hospital staff are often reluctant to prosecute.
Every hospital is affected by this in some form or other. The attacks on health staff also prevent people from coming into the profession. Nurses aren't punch bags, none of the health staff are. You wouldn't expect it if you worked at Sainsbury's, you shouldn't expect it if you work in the health service.
A part of our culture is open reporting, and we're encouraged by the reporting rather than the numbers have gone up and that's a bad thing. We do know it has a significant impact on our staff, but by being open and talking about it, hopefully we minimise that impact, and we then can put things in place to ensure that the incidences come down, people are supported.
We get support from our managers, our matron, other colleagues on the ward, and we're like a family. Everyone's really good here.
These patients, 9 out of 10 times, you see the other side to that when they come out of that condition, and a lot of people are remorseful. We get people into programmes for detox, for rehab.
I think maybe my own family don't understand sometimes the kind of environment that I work in. I think they'd be a bit worried if they did. But no, I don't get scared of coming to work. I love my job still.
Well, earlier I spoke to the Health Minister, Stephen Hammond, and I asked him if the NHS was a more dangerous place to work than it was 5 years ago.
Well, what I think the recent staff survey has shown that there are a number of staff who have been attacked by patients and are fearful of attack. And we must do everything we can to protect the dedicated professionals who work in the NHS. So I am committed as Minister, and the government is committed to introducing a violence reduction strategy so that everybody feels safe when they're working in the NHS.
Isn't the fact that you've had to bring in this strategy to address this problem recognition that things have got worse?
It's a recognition that all staff should feel safe when they're delivering the excellent care. It's a recognition that actually that probably should have been in place a long time ago. And not only is it a recognition, it's being backed up by money to make sure it can be implemented.
Why wasn't it in place a long time ago? Why weren't you protecting staff previously?
Well, we were protecting staff, and that was being done at individual trust level. But now, with the violence reduction strategy, we'll share best practice. It will introduce training for staff. It'll have money behind it to make sure it can be implemented. And we are working with both the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to ensure that there's a legally enforceable code and law.
Some staff have told us they've seen a marked increase in attacks from mental health patients. Now, some of those measures around prosecution may not be effective where people don't have capacity, but of course those attacks still have that same impact on staff.
They do, but as you will know, that the long-term plan that my colleague, the Secretary of State Matt Hancock, set out in January explicitly puts mental health for the first time on a parity with physical health. We are doing more to make sure mental health patients are properly cared for, and a consequence of that will be, I hope and I believe, a reduction in attacks.
Hospitals have told us they're having to spend a lot more on security. Recently in Southampton, security guards went on strike because they said they needed specialist equipment like stab vests. Are we inevitably going to see more NHS money going on making sure hospitals are safe and not on frontline patient care?
Well, no. We are absolutely committed to making sure there is a huge extra increase in resources going into frontline patient care. But at the same time, we all accept that there are times when A&E particularly has some very difficult people in it, and there is security required. But that is absolutely not coming at the cost of patient care.
Stephen Hammond, Minister of State for Health, thank you very much.
Thank you.